When Representative Jayapal starts asking tough questions about democracy, election legitimacy, and foreign leaders, Kari Lake doesn't hold back and quickly snaps. What happens next exposes the real tension between U.S. interests and global accountability.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for being here, Ms. Lake. The U.S. Agency for Global Media is tasked with providing unbiased news worldwide to over 427 million listeners, many of whom live in countries without freedom of press or freedom of the speech. And it is your job to promote the American ideals of freedom and democracy. So I wanted to start just by confirming, do you support democracy or authoritarianism?
I think that's pretty obvious. I support freedom and democracy.
Democracy. Great. Would you agree that accepting the results of a fair and free election are critical to a functioning democracy?
Would you agree that standing up and cheering for a cancer survivor would have been the nice thing to do?
Ms. Lake, this is my time.
Okay.
Would you accept that accepting the results of a free and fair election are critical to a functioning democracy? It's a yes or no question. Do you think it's essential for democracy to have a free and fair election?
We need free and fair elections.
Free and fair elections, great. Thank you so much. And yet, you have, to this day, refused to acknowledge that President Trump lost the 2020 election, something that even members of President Trump's own Justice Department have admitted and multiple lawsuits have shown. And we heard my colleague from Arizona talk about what happened in Arizona. So it concerns me that you are now tasked with this responsibility of ensuring democracy around the world when you won't even accept a free and fair election. I'm also concerned by your ability to promote the American ideals of freedom and democracy, given your record defending and praising dictators. Let's look at Hungary. You previously stated that Hungary is, quote, doing it right, and that Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán was, quote, the greatest in America, greatest in caps, and, quote, and equal to President Trump. Do you stand by those statements?
I think that Viktor Orbán has done a very good job at protecting his people and protecting the Hungarian culture.
And so,
I think,
Ms. Lake,
if you ask people in Europe, other parts of
Europe, the question here is very simple.
They would be wishing that their leaders stood up for their people.
Is Viktor Orbán the greatest in Europe? Yes or no?
I think he's done the best job in Europe, yes.
Okay, and so even Secretary Rubio acknowledged in a 2019 letter that under Orban, Hungary took a downward democratic trajectory, and yet you insist that Hungary is doing it right. I want to cover some of the policies that Mr. Orban is responsible for. Would you consider banning LGBTQ pride parades like Viktor Orbán has done in Hungary as doing it right, recognizing that pride parades are protected under the First Amendment?
What does this have to do with the U.S. Agency for Global Media?
I'm asking you whether you support the policies of dictators and authoritarians or whether you support democracy. You have said that Viktor Orbán is the greatest in Europe. So do you think that Viktor Orbán is doing it right when he bans pride parades?
I think Viktor Orbán has put the people of his country first.
So the answer is yes, you think it's appropriate that he's banning pride parades and using facial recognition technology to actually profile people that go to those parades? How about the fact that Orban and his party control 80% of Hungary's media market.
Are we here talking about Hungary?
Yes, we are, because guess what? Your agency actually is responsible for other countries
Hungary
and
is
unbiased
an ally.
news.
Can I remind you that Hungary is an ally of America?
Oh, and so you think that it's okay that Viktor Orbán, the greatest in Europe, according to you, controls 80% of Hungary's media market? Is that level, free, and fair reporting?
I don't. You obviously don't like our ally Hungary. I think that
I'm asking
people
you
have
if
for
you
him, and the
think
people of
that
Hungary
it's
will decide.
appropriate. Ms. Lake, it is my time. I'm asking you if it is appropriate that a country, Viktor Orbán's government, controls 80% of Hungary's media market. It's just a yes or no. Do you think that's okay? Think he's the greatest of all time?
I don't have an opinion on what Viktor Orbán is doing in Hungary.
It's not up for debate. It's a fact that has been documented by numerous organizations.
Now,
not only
have
you supported, excuse me, Ms. Lake, I'm sorry to remind you, you are not a governor. You're not even a candidate for governor. You're here, and this is my time. Not only have you supported dictators that have supported policies that erode democracy, you also spread claims promoted by Russian state media that the Pentagon was funding bioweapon labs in Ukraine. These these claims have been proven resoundingly false, even by Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Do you still stand by that prior
Look,
statement, Ms. Lake?
I know that many members of Congress care more about
Do
funding
you
Ukraine
stand
than
by that statement,
order.
which is clearly a lie?
I know that you
You are
voted.
responsible for an agency that is supposed to promote truth, and yet, over and over again, you are promoting dictators and authoritarians and lies. So I am asking you if you stand by the statement that you made that was promoted by Russian state media that the Pentagon was funding bioweapon labs in Ukraine. Proven false by Marco Rubio. Do you stand by that
I
statement?
understand you're trying to get a fundraising video here.
Okay,
So
well,
let me
you
help
clearly
make-
don't
let me
understand that
reminding
you are
the ladies,
actually
time
here
has
expired.
before
Your time has
Congress. Mr.
expired, Ms.
Chairman, I
Jayapal.
just want to say
you had
that
more than enough time. I gave you a few extra
I
seconds, and your
understand,
time
and
has expired.
unfortunately,
What happened in this exchange between Kari Lake and Representative Pramila Jayapal is a clear illustration of tension at the intersection of domestic politics and global responsibilities. On one side, you have Jayapal, pressing for accountability on issues that go beyond U.S. borders, such as election legitimacy, media freedom, and the policies of foreign leaders. On the other, Lake, who is navigating a political identity built on defending Trump-era claims and challenging the narrative around foreign media, pushes back, visibly frustrated and defensive. What's striking here is Lake's repeated refrain: what does this have to do with the U.S.? It's more than impatience, it's a strategic pivot. By redirecting the focus back to domestic priorities, she highlights a tension at the heart of her role. She is responsible for promoting American ideals abroad, yet she challenges the idea that she must evaluate or criticize policies in allied countries, even when those policies conflict with democratic norms. That pushback raises important questions about how accountability is framed. Should U.S. officials tasked with promoting democracy abroad be expected to critique allies or only adversaries? Lake clearly signals her belief that U.S. interests should take precedence over global scrutiny. The exchange over Viktor Orbán of Hungary crystallizes this tension. Jayapal presses Lake on her previous praise of Orban, citing his restrictions on LGBTQ rights, the consolidation of media power, and other authoritarian measures. Lake responds by emphasizing that Orban puts his people first and questioning whether these policies are directly relevant to the U.S. Her answer exposes a larger debate about the export of American values. Can the U.S. effectively promote freedom abroad if its representatives are unwilling to publicly challenge leaders who undermine democratic norms, even in allied countries? Jayapal's persistence underscores the stakes, particularly for the U.S. Agency for Global Media, which is meant to foster free, unbiased reporting worldwide. Another layer of complexity comes from Lake's handling of election legitimacy. Jayapal questions her stance on the 2020 election, noting that even Trump's own Justice Department acknowledged Biden's victory. Lake answers evasively, asserting the need to defend American interests, which raises concerns about whether personal political loyalties can interfere with a mandate to support democratic norms abroad. It's a reminder that the domestic political climate can directly influence how American institutions engage internationally. Finally, the discussion around misinformation, including false claims about Pentagon-funded bioweapon labs in Ukraine, highlights a crucial risk. When a U.S. official endorses narratives promoted by foreign adversaries, it undermines credibility and hampers the agency's mission to provide unbiased news globally. Jayapal's line of questioning emphasizes that officials entrusted with representing American values cannot selectively apply principles or spread unverified claims, especially when millions rely on these institutions for truthful reporting. The tension in this hearing isn't just theatrical. It exposes the inherent challenge of balancing domestic political identity with international responsibility. Lake's resistance to direct questioning, her frustration, and her attempts to redirect the conversation reflect a broader struggle. How should American officials navigate global obligations when their own political beliefs and loyalties are in play? And more importantly, how do these choices impact the credibility of U.S. institutions meant to safeguard democracy, both at home and abroad? This confrontation serves as a wake-up call. It reminds us that the principles of democracy, free elections, media freedom, unbiased information, are not abstract. They require vigilance, accountability, and the courage to confront uncomfortable truths. And in moments like this, where domestic politics intersects with global influence, we see just how high the stakes really are.